Aran Islands artist Padraig Jack is a bilingual singer and songwriter. These Shores is his second album, and it is the third that we have up for review this evening. And that's These Shores, a title and opening track from Padraig Jack's second album. His first album, John, was Making Sand. I think was it more directed at the folk area of music, although you can hear the folk
you can
influences
certainly
in there
folk
for
this
sure.
as well, but I think it was much more conventionally folk, and that's largely the kind of audience that has followed him. He's from Inishmore in the Aran Islands, but he has some interesting people working with him here, including John Reynolds, best known for his work with Sinead O'Connor, and there's a real mix of music here, kind of conventional singer-songwriter stuff, folk stuff, even the odd bit of sean-nós in terms of the way he sings.
And there's a country feel in the album at times too, Kate.
There is a country feel. There's also kind of an ode, I think, to, like, he has spoken about his mother's love of Van Morrison, and he's been given that, and I think you can hear a bit of that, and what's called Jimmy McCarthy as well, and James Taylor. So it's kind of, while I was talking about the Heaton album, saying that was kind of all over the place, this one is brought together quite cohesively. And I think, there's themes of him sort of looking at things that bring him joy or spark joy, and looking at the heritage of our country, and looking at, I think, trying to be optimistic when maybe you might be feeling lonely or isolated.
Yeah, and there's an absolute sense of sincerity across all the songwriting. I don't think he's capable of telling lies, Padraig Jack.
For sure. There's a song, What Is Love? I think it's one of the better songs in the album, and a lyric, powerful lyric. There's nothing that can't be done if you're happy inside. Rejection ain't no fun, it can shatter your life. I mean, he really is laying himself bare on some of these songs, as he did on the previous album.
He's really interesting as well, in that he gave up his career as a science lecturer engineer to follow his career, to follow basically music, and he's obviously doing that from that sincere place of, okay, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to make something I love.
And it is a bilingual album, a couple of songs Oscueiliga in there as well. Ihe Yal, Gielta Gohifrin. How does that sit within the overall shape of the album, Kate?
I think it marries incredibly well, because you can hear that he is completely bilingual, and that we float through the languages. And when he's speaking Irish, I'm not an Irish speaker, but the sound kind of conveys what I think he's trying to say. I have to go and look up what it means, which is terrible. I should be able to speak.
It's worth pointing out that his father, Barry Ronan, in 1983 released an album called Trá, which was a synth pop album with lyrics Oscueiliga, and it was produced by Nicky Ryan, who went on to have a lot of fame and success with Enya. So there is kind of previous in the family.
Is this album about trying to move Padraig Jack into a more mainstream type of area? Because there's a touch of Sean Keane. You mentioned this, Kate. Sorry, I shouldn't have stolen your thunder, but I think it's a good comparison.
Yeah. So the thing is, what I like about it is the tone of his voice. And when I was listening, I felt that there was obviously Sean sort of sings more through his nose and can have that Sean nose thing, but there's something about Padraig James where he has that tone to his voice as well. And I do think there are some songs on the album that are incredibly radio friendly, and I say that as a radio producer, as somebody that looks at this kind of thing and thinks that, well, artists do have to consider that. And some of the darker songs on the album that wouldn't necessarily be immediately put onto radio play are the ones that fascinated me more. They were the ones that
funny enough, that What Is Love was the one that I felt had the darkest kind of musical sound to it, even though it's a very positive message. Stars overall from you on this one, Kate?
I think it's a really well produced album. I think it's a gentle meander through the observations of Padraig James, and a nice introduction to anybody, because I think a lot of people won't know who he is. I'm giving it 3 out of 5.
And what are you saying, John?
I think it's a solid album. There's some good tracks here. 3 stars.
3 from both of you then for These Shores from Padraig Jack. And previously we spoke about The Mighty Several from Paul Heaton, and Supercharged from The Offspring, Kate Brennan-Harding and John Marr, our reviewers on this Friday evening. That is our lot for tonight and for
in my